We're doing another City of God video today. I filmed my last video for chapter 6, so this will be chapter 7 and part of chapter 8. And if I haven't explained in other videos, I am currently reading it's called City of God by Saint Augustine. I have been saying Saint Augustine. I mean, can you blame me? That's how it's written. Sure, you can blame me because it's out there in the interwebs, but I've been saying Saint Augustine, and then I have been watching a lot of Dr. Michael Sergey's lectures, and he pronounced it Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine. And I realized that I've been probably saying it wrong, so that's why I'm going to correct myself and say Saint Augustine from this point forward. So we will begin with Book 7, Chapter 5. The container symbolizes what it contained. So too, by means of an image with a human form, the rational soul can be symbolized, since by nature it is contained in a body as in a vessel, and they imply that God is of the same nature as a rational soul. The rational soul can be symbolized, since by nature it is contained in a body as in a vessel, and they imply that God is of the same nature as a rational soul. I feel that if you are into what is called the spiritual path or higher conscious thinking, then you already understand the concept of you not being your body. You are something that is not just in this one definite place in space and time. You are something much larger than what you may have considered to be your person. And I really like the way that he says the container symbolizes what it contained. Think of yourself as an ever-changing form that you can decide how it feels, which then determines how it looks. I really love Abraham Hicks, who says that the most important thing we can do is feel good, and from that place we will realize everything that we want or think that we want, because that is also always changing. You don't have the same desires you had when you were 10. Maybe some of them still ring true, but for the most part, what you focus on has changed. Therefore, what you believe you can achieve for yourself has changed. Your life has changed subsequently because of this. And what he's referencing here is how people, since the beginning of time, have discovered that a rational soul, a soul that is good and pure, is of the same nature of God, our Creator. And this I have to agree with. So we move on to chapter 29. We adore God who made heaven and earth and all that they contain. God who made every kind of soul, from the lowest that lives without sensation and intellection, through the sentient up to the soul that can think. So without sensation and intellection, think of like a rock. Through the sentient, which is like plants, and up to the soul that can think, which is human. All the ducks are hopping in the pond behind me. We adore God who made heaven and earth and everything, from the rocks to the insects to the plants to other humans. Somebody that is of higher consciousness cannot deny the perfection that is God's work, which is everybody that exists. And I know that that can be a little difficult for some people to hear and actually understand, but it's true. You cannot call yourself a higher thinker and still believe that other people have more worth than others. We were all made for the pleasure of God. We are all reflections of God. And some people get a lot more scrambled than others. Think of like refractions of light. Some people can be more scrambled than others within this light, but there's always opportunity to realize one's potential and one's source, which is all the same for all of us. Chapter 31 is a beautiful paragraph. I'm going to read the whole thing. I have already said something of the general blessings of God, which, in the natural course of things, come to the good and the bad alike. However, beyond this bounty, he has reserved for the good a special sign of his great love. We can never sufficiently thank him for the gifts of nature, that we exist and are alive, that we can enjoy the sight of earth and sky, that we have a reasoning mind by which we can seek him who has made all these things. Yet, for the greater gifts of grace, there are not hearts enough or tongues enough in all the world even to try to thank him. For when we were burdened and broken by our sins, and our mind were turned from his light and blinded by the love of the darkness of iniquity, he did not leave us to ourselves, but sent to us his word, who is his only Son, so that by his birth and passion in the flesh he assumed for our salvation, we might learn how highly God esteemed our human nature, and that we might be cleansed from all our sins by his unique sacrifice, and by his Spirit have love poured into our hearts, so that with all our wearing over, we might come to everlasting rest in the supreme blessedness of gazing on his face. I, for one, can definitely relate to being burdened and broken by sins and having my mind feel that it is in complete darkness. There's a duck. From this feeling, I have received exceptional insights into the truth of the world, and I feel that I was bestowed these blessings of insight so that I could realize my purpose here. There is truly a divine dance occurring between darkness and light, between the shadow and the true self. You cannot have one without the other. And as humans, we are playing a very cute little duck dripping with water. We are playing a very important role on Earth. We are here to raise collective consciousness. Part of chapter 33 reads that earthly creatures to get themselves reckoned as gods, and who then rejoiced with proud impurity that divine honors should be paid to such disgusting and indecent things, all the while hating to see men's souls turn to the true God. From their horrible and hateful domination, a man is delivered by faith in him who showed us the way to rise by going to a depth of humility as great as the height of pride from which they fell. So for this, I read as people with unclean spirits, people that perhaps have reached a certain height in fame or seeming wealth or power, and they act indecent, and as St. Augustine said, they expect to be praised. A duck just ran right in front and knocked the camera down. That's awesome. They expect to be paid for such disgusting and indecent things, and praised for their impurity. This is really prevalent in our community, in our world, right? Because we're all just part of one big community. And it's pretty interesting how no matter how far people think that they can get in life doing this, there's always some sort of downfall and descent and spiral, because only the good can prevail. That might look like to be untrue to some people, but it really is the truth. God is the one who has seen it all. They are trying to play God, try to play the game in a way that only benefits them, not realizing that everybody is capable of doing that. I like when St. Augustine says that from their horrible and hateful domination, a man is delivered by faith in him who showed us the way to rise by going to a depth of humility as great as the height of pride from which they fell. People can only begin to regain some sense of beingness once they've fallen by learning to be humble, by learning to endure the pain from which they bestowed onto others. And it might not look the same as you would expect it to, but it doesn't matter how things look. It's about the internal growth that needs to occur. And one can only be so proud, right? There are certain things that we go through that must be thanked. We must give thanks to all things, but especially our struggles, because they are teaching us how to have faith, and they are teaching us how to see the truth in all things, rather than getting oversighted by shiny things or by false promises. Our struggles and what seem like downfalls are our greatest teachings, because they allow us to truly appreciate the goodness that God wants for us. When we get the things that we have been seeking, we need to know how to hold it. We need to know how to appreciate it. And that is impossible to do if we haven't been without. The pride needs to match the humility. You can work really hard and achieve something and only give thanks to yourself and watch that thing disappear because it wasn't just you that had a hand in this. In fact, you were co-creating everything. Therefore, you need to always give thanks to that which created you and created this thing that you're so happy with and proud of. Yes, you can be proud of yourself and give thanks to yourself, but more than that, you give thanks to God, to the fact that you're even here and able to have this thing that you're appreciating and living in. So that was the end of book 7. Now we're on to book 8, which begins chapter 1. I'm not reading exactly at the beginning, just my highlighted parts. Unlike the poetical theology of the stage, which flaunts the crimes of the gods, and the political theology of the city, which publicizes their evil desires, and both of which reveal them as dangerous demons rather than deities, natural theology cannot be discussed with men in the street, but only with philosophers. That is, as the name implies, with lovers of wisdom. If you don't know, St. Augustine pretty much believes that plays in the theater at the time when he lived, which basically focused on Greek gods and their whole spiel, their whole lives, and just the act of putting on costumes in general is demonic and blasphemous and goes against the one true God, which he believes would never want us to act as anything other than what we are. So that's what he means specifically when he says poetical theology of the stage theater, which flaunts the crimes of the gods, and the political theology of the city, which publicizes their evil desires. What he means by that is what I would take as the news, as people in politics, people in control of media, people in control of the things that are exploited, right? Those are all ways that we focus on evil doings, and we put that in the forefront of our mind, of our focus. St. Augustine doesn't like that. And he also feels that the only right way to have conversations of God, to have conversations at all actually, are with people that consider themselves philosophers or lovers of wisdom, people that are constantly seeking answers to life's greatest questions. Those are the people that we should focus our attention on and our time on, because they are focused on the right things, according to St. Augustine, which I actually can agree with. Moving on to chapter 2, he says, he's speaking of different philosophers and their pupils at this time. His pupil, speaking of Anaximander, his pupil Anaxagoras, realizing that divine spirit was the cause of all visible things, held that the divine mind, using infinite matter, consisting of unlike particles, made each particular thing out of its own kind of like particles. And then he goes on to say that Socrates realized that his predecessors had been seeking the origin of all things, which could be comprehended only by a mind purified from passion. Hence his conclusion that he must apply himself to the acquisition of virtue, so that his mind, freed from the weight of earthly desires, might, by its own natural vigor, lift itself up to eternal realities and with purified intelligence. Giving up your desires is also in the realm of detachment. A lot of people say to just give up the expectation, and I know it's a pretty easy thing to say, but actually doing it takes a focused mind. Like I, for instance, have given up physical pleasure, sex to be exact. I wear this ring on my finger to remind myself of this promise that I made, that my passion is focused in my faith, on finding God in all things, in all people, in everyone. And one of the ways that we are kept from doing this by society is the focus and the drive to reproduce and recreate human life through sex. And it's a way of control. And I've come to that conclusion that within my own life, to be free from this is to make the promise to be focused on something much larger than it, right? So if you want lots of money, for instance, focus on what you are going to do with that money, and hopefully it is a right and virtuous thing to do with it, such as helping family, or establishing a nonprofit, or giving back to community. It's really important to have a greater aim than the thing itself. So in seeking pleasure of life, give up the minute temporal affection and pleasure that you receive in or from another person. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but I just feel like it's a concept that a lot of people know of, but they don't apply it because of what it means for their temporary, experience. Chapter 3 ends with, "Now the truth is that the supreme good is that which, when attained, makes all men happy." So the supreme good is not sex. The supreme good is not money. The supreme good is not a brand new car or a new house. Supreme good is what makes all men happy, which if you go ask one man what will make him happy, it's going to be different than asking one woman what makes her happy. And then again and again and again, you're always going to get a different answer. And you'll find that within all of it is a golden thread of faith, of God, of something bigger than us. That is the highest good. Filming the rest of this in my car because a few things. Very windy. Lots of people are now at the pond where I was sitting. It was like the best spot in the house, so of course there's lots of people there. And I already get a lot of looks because of my shaved head, I think. And talking then to a camera would attract more. And I often find myself speaking lower than I normally would when I know people are looking and most likely listening. And I don't want to do that. I want you to hear me clearly, so I just walked to my car. And as I was walking, the wind started to pick up as well, so it worked out for the best. The other reason is that the camera was dying, and I brought my portable charger with me, but when it's connected to my car, it just keeps the video going rather than shutting down. I can't tell you why, but it's a great option, especially for times like this when I just want to film in my car anyways. So here we are. Continuing with book 8, we are on chapter 10. I ended with, so we're in book 8, but I think, we're on book 8, chapter 6. I was about to skip ahead there. My apologies. St. Augustine says, towards the middle of chapter 6, that for in God, to live, to know, to be blessed, is one and the same to be. In God, to live, to know, to be blessed, is one and the same to be. What St. Augustine is saying here is that to simply have life is to be blessed. To simply be alive is to know you are blessed as well. It's all the same thing. When you recognize yourself, you're recognizing life. You're recognizing perfection. This is blessedness. It's all the same. There is no separation between being alive, understanding one's own essence and purpose, and being blessed. They are a trifecta, if you will. It's all the same thing, according to St. Augustine, which I really love. It's probably one of my favorite things that I've read so far. At the end of chapter 6, he states that they rightly concluded, speaking of philosophers, specifically Platonists, followers of Plato, only a reality unmade, from which all other realities originate, could be the ultimate principle of things. This is something that they figured out back in the day. This is the essence of manifestation. They've known this, we have known this for centuries. That this reality that we are experiencing now must come from one that hasn't yet been created. This is the origination of all things. The ultimate principle of all things is the ethereal sense before it is material. It is the never-ending space from which we hail from. Our consciousness is like a dot on a map that goes on forever and ever and ever. We are a very, very, very small, minute part of this orchestration that's occurring. from this existence that you and I are living right now comes everything. We are a dot with the ability to focus in such a way that can call anything that we can possibly imagine to be. This is the fact of our existence. I've said it on this channel 100,000 times, maybe not really. I've said it a lot, that we are creators. We are all creating our own reality. Most of us are not doing it consciously, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's always happening. What you focus on is what comes to be. At the end of chapter 7, St. Augustine says that, as for that light of our minds, by which all can be learned, that they declared was the very God by whom all things were made. This reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements. What we are doing when we focus our attention is we are harnessing our ability to create. We are harnessing our tool. The words that we speak, the thoughts that we have, the actions that we take are all encompassing our aim, our goal, right? When the arrow is pointed, when we focus our breath and we pull back the bow, we straighten out the arrow, right? We have it in mind. When we let go, we are doing so with the light of our minds, which is the essence of God, who created all things, who created me and you. This focus that we have is God-given. It's angelic. It is the pinnacle of our power as human beings on earth. This is why it is so important to clear the mind, to shed away things that do not serve you, to fill yourself with whole, clean foods, with purified water, with knowledge of the highest light. This is why it's so important to take care of yourself as you would a newborn baby that you really love and care about and want the best for. This is how you realize everything that you want in life. Faith must run through all that you do, because the reality of things is not always the truth of things. The quickest way to get the things that you believe yourself to desire is to be happy as if you already have it, is to enjoy life as if you already have everything you want. This is how you create the dream. We are all living in a dream. And becoming a conscious creator is to have faith in that dream. Have faith that it is manifesting already. Know that it already has, and all you're doing is shifting your perspective to that which already has it. This is the name of the game. This is the very God by whom all things were made, are made, will be made. It's all happening at once. So we are now at the end of chapter 8. Now for Plato, this true and highest good was God, and therefore he calls a philosopher a lover of God, implying that philosophy is a hunt for happiness, which ends only when a lover of God reaches fruition in God. The reason why I highlighted this and wanted to talk about it is because that is truly what I believe I am seeking. That is what I believe the people that are attracted to me are seeking, is a higher truth than what we have been told is real and is everything. We are constantly seeking something that answers our greatest questions, life's greatest questions, right? Those same things that philosophers before us have pondered, which is, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my existence? Why do people do these things? Why do people want these things? It is all surrounding the essence of God. And when we can realize this in our life and in the lives of others, when we can notice this, recognize it, see it, and be it, that is when we truly become one with God. That is when we realize that everything was always happening to get to this very moment, this present moment right here, right now. That's why I believe you are attracted to this video and to wisdom and to philosophy as it is, because you're seeking something that is not of this world. Was it Jesus that said, "You are in the world, you are not of the world"? Maybe I'm quoting that wrong. Let me see. I can't find the actual quote, and I'm worried I misstated it. So if you have any idea about this, please do let me know. We cannot identify with the things that we see and hear and can feel and touch, because that's a very small part of the truth. And that is where, for me, just speaking of myself, I find myself suffering when I truly identify with the things that are happening. So yeah, I'm sorry if I seem a little off today. I have started my cycle. A little TMI for my people that can relate. I free bleed. I've been practicing this for 2 cycles now. No products, right? Just letting it all go. And I wear things like in layers. Like right now I'm wearing shorts that have 2 layers and sweatpants that are very thick. And it works for me. I feel good when I don't have anything down there, you know? Why do these people need to park next to me? It's okay. It feels good when I do this. It doesn't take away any like normal menstrual symptoms. It just is what it is, you know? So I'm feeling a little drained. I'm literally being drained. But it's a beautiful thing. I'm very happy to be a woman. Just felt like saying that in case you notice something different in my demeanor. That is because of that. So I'm going to leave off with a quote from chapter 10. Still in chapter 8, we'll pick it up in the next video. But I felt like this was a good place to end the video because it relates to something I said earlier about people that falsely expect praise and money or recognition or some sort of, let me just go to the exact thing that I said, or that St. Augustine said. People that get themselves reckoned as gods and who then rejoiced with proud impurity that divine honors should be paid to such disgusting and indecent things. From their horrible and hateful domination, a man is delivered by faith in him who showed us the way to rise by going to a depth of humility as great as the height of pride from which they fell. To this, I would like to connect this quote that although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their senseless minds have been darkened. There are so many people in the spotlight that we can see that obtain and achieve the things that we think we want for ourselves, and we watch them become vain, just as St. Augustine said. We watch them become vain and not give thanks to that which gave it to them in the first place. They try to give themselves all the credit. And in doing so, they forget to give thanks to the Creator, the one that gave it to them in the first place. And I know that in these videos, and in this very video, I said that we are the creators, but we are not doing it alone. Something that Abraham Hicks talks about a lot is our higher self. the part that still exists with God, that sees us and is only focused upon us and our desires and our needs, and is constantly working with us to bring all these things into fruition. This is what I'm referencing when I say God, the part that lives above us, the God that lives over us all, that already knew what was going to happen, that already knows the way of the world, that already knows how our lives are meant to turn out. This essence of God includes the other half of us that exists there with them. That you can think of it like a mothership that sent down like pods. You can think of yourself as a pod, as a vessel, right? Holding a part of the mothership. And they are watching us. They are also connected to us always. There's like an invisible pipe from us to the mothership that is giving us all of these resources in order to live the life that we desire. And that is what co-creation is allowing those resources to come through us and into the world. That is creativity, that is inspirational flow, that is going with life. Loving life comes from allowing the higher, greater force to do its thing, to work its magic, to flow through us. When we think that it is all our doing, when we receive the riches, when we receive the love, when we receive the support, we think, oh, it's just me, all thanks to me, all the hard work I did, praise me, I should be paid, I should be praised. The force that is above us, that is on the mothership, is like, oh no. No, because it's just not true. From that place, you begin to think that it's all on you, that it's all on your shoulders, that you're the only one doing this, making it work, when that's just not the case, right? St. Augustine says, although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their senseless minds have been darkened. Excuse me, I'm sure you can think of 1 or 2 or 5 celebrities or people in the spotlight that have been warped by fame. They've been warped by the fortune that they received. And it's because they became senseless. That's the best word. Thank you, St. Augustine. They became senseless. And their entire viewpoint darkened. The one that really comes to mind is Mr. Kanye West. I know that there's so much controversy around that man. But I think what everyone can agree on, whether or not you are a fan of his or ever have been somebody who loved his music, you can agree that at some point or another he was channeling musical genius. Productions were unlike anything we had heard before. He was able to take an old sound and make it new. So many things have occurred that completely skewed, warped, just spiraled what was once genius into what some may call madness. This has happened to millions of people in the length of human history. He is not the first case, and he will not be the last, of somebody refusing to surrender and give up control and allow the light to shine. Because when you are truthful about everything, there is no place to hide. That is why people lie, because they need something to hide. They need to be in the darkness because their shadow will not survive. They are attached to their shadow. Some people may consider this ego. It is a part of the human plight. It's a part of the human predicament to be both light and dark. You must surrender the shadow in order to fully be in the light. And you cannot surrender the shadow without looking at it. You cannot bring the shadow to the light without truly... This car just stopped in a weird position. You cannot be of the light and be attached to your ego, be attached to your desire, be attached to your vanity. Those things do not survive in the light because they are not light. Now I feel like this video is complete. Before I let you go, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the love and support that you have been showing to me and my channel. This is my safe space to speak my mind freely because I know that the only one that can judge me is God. The only one that can take from me is God. I am not afraid to speak my mind here because I know that what I have to say is meaningful. And I'm so grateful that you're here listening to me. Thank you to all of my new subscribers for joining the family, and thank you to all of my old day one subscribers for still being here with me on this journey. I am so grateful and appreciative of your presence, and I truly love each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed something that you heard, like the video so that I know, comment whatever you want, let's have a conversation. I will always respond to every comment except for rude ones or ignorant ones because we don't give our time or our energy to those things. Also, if you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and join our beautiful community that is growing literally every day. I'm so thankful to be here, to be alive, to see this happening. This world is beautiful. All thanks to God. I'll see you in the next one. I love you.